Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Dear students, you are welcome in this class. The topic of this lecture is nutrient management in organic farming systems. The learning objectives are to understand the nutrient management practices for organic farming, because in organic farming there are 3-4 important issues like nutrient management, your insect pest and disease management, and choosing the crop, choice of the crops. And also we will describe the influence of varied nutrient management practices on crop yield, economics and quality under organic systems. So glossary is like agroecology. Agroecology is a whole system approach to agriculture that applies ecology to the design and management of sustainable production systems. So agroecology is actually very close to organic agriculture. Buffer zone. In organic systems, there is requirement for keeping the buffer zone. It means an area located between a certified production operation or portion of a production operation and an adjacent land area that is not maintained under organic management. Means it is a kind of division between conventional and organic farming, so that there is no contamination from one side to the other side. Bulk density of soil is the mass of dry soil divided by the bulk volume. Bulk density is not an absolute indicator of compaction because root limiting density varies with the texture. Climate change. These days we hear this term quite frequently. So any systematic shift in the long-term statistics of climate elements like temperature, rainfall or winds sustained over several decades or longer. If there are some abrupt changes that are noticeable, then this is climate change. Legume, I think many of you are aware of legume. Plants including beans, peas, clovers, alfalfa that form a symbiotic relationship with nitrogen fixing bacteria living in their root, legumes. Organic farming is kind of agriculture that does not use chemicals. Genetic modification means GM crops, genetically modified crops or organisms, or irradiation using only natural products. The term organic was first printed in the 1940 publication Look to the Land by Lord Northumberland in USA. Polyculture, a field or cropping system with multiple interacting crops or pertaining to such a field or cropping system. Smoother crop or kind of cover crop. An interseeded crop sown with the intent of smoothing weeds, sometimes also applied to a weed suppressive cover crop grown alone. So friends, now we switch over to the topic of organic agriculture, and in organic agriculture we will deal with the nutrient management. But before that, I want to give you some background information why we need some efficient nutrient management under organic systems. Recently, some studies have been made by National Institute of Nutrition that suggest that protein levels are rapidly declining in all foods in India. So this story was published in Down to Earth magazine based upon the data provided by NIN Hyderabad. So it is not just protein which has declined. Carbohydrates, minerals, vitamins and many other food constituents have declined in Indian food. Now you can see these studies were regularly published by National Institute of Nutrition Hyderabad. First time they published in 1937, followed by 1951, then 1971, 1989 and latest one is 2017. So from 2017 or during 1989 to 2017, there were about 28 years. What kind of changes they observed in these 28 years? That was decline in most of the food constituents in India. That is quite surprising. For example, in bajra, carbohydrate content has declined to 8.5%. In wheat, 9% carbohydrate, masoor or lentil, 10% protein has declined. That means suppose assume that there was about 25% protein in year 1989. Now it is 22.5% protein. That means to make up my protein requirement, I will require to take more dal, more lentil, because its protein content has gone down. Similarly, potato, thiamine is a kind of vitamin which has declined, magnesium, zinc. In ripe tomatoes, thiamine, iron, zinc have declined by 66 to 73%. These are very serious issues. In green tomatoes, 76% iron has declined, and in apple, 60% iron has declined. So most of the food items have lost their nutritional quality. Now question comes, as a student you will ask, sir, why there is decline in this food quality? So there are two reasons which have been proposed by expert people. Number one is climate change, and number two is deficiency of micronutrients and other nutrients in the soil. So let us concentrate on climate change first. So we know that the levels of carbon dioxide are rising in the environment, and some simulated studies have been made. For example, one such study was published in Global Change Biology 2015. It says that the wheat grown in high CO2 levels, there was 9.3% less zinc, 5.1% less iron, and 6.3% less protein. That means the nutritional content has declined mainly because of increased carbon dioxide in the environment, which leads to the increased photosynthesis or increased carbon dioxide assimilation. Thus, it will have some dilution effect on the other nutrients. Therefore, there was decline in quality of the food. Number two reason is due to deficiency or increased deficiency of micronutrients in soil. First, I want to show you some data about this. So you see so far rating chart of available nutrients in Indian soil is concerned. See available nitrogen, available phosphorus, and available potassium. Most of the nutrients are low. See table number 2 now. Available nitrogen, about 57% soil samples or 57% Indian soils are having low level of nitrogen, very serious issue, and 36% medium nitrogen and only 7% are high in nitrogen. Similarly, for available phosphorus, 51% soils are deficient, they have low levels of phosphorus, and 40% medium and only 9% have high. However, in case of available potassium, it is still somewhat satisfactory. We have just 9% soils are low, and 42% soils or districts are medium, and 49 or half of the soils have high level of potassium. But problem of micronutrient deficiency is emerging very seriously and very fast. See the case percentage sample soil deficient. In this case, boron deficiency was there in 33% samples. Copper 8%, iron 15%, manganese 6%, zinc 44%, or roughly half of the Indian soils are deficient in zinc, and molybdenum 13%. So if our soils are deficient in zinc, how this zinc can be transferred to the plant? Because it is not there. So how plant will take up this zinc or any micronutrient which is deficient in soil? So then those kind of micronutrients which are deficient in soil will definitely be deficient in the plant, and animals or human beings, those who are eating or using these plants, will also have low level or deficient level of that particular micronutrient or that particular nutrient. So it is a chain, it is a cycle. If our soils are deficient, your plants are deficient, and human beings or animals will also have deficiency. So several health issues may come up in future, and it has been said by many scientists long back that health of the soil is related to health of the plant and health of the human beings. See, this kind of research was already done by Sir Albert Howard, who was a scientist, fundamentally plant breeder, and he came to India to breed wheat varieties. Later on, from Bihar, he shifted to Indore, where he developed his method of composting, which is known as Indore method of composting. He found some interest in organic farming and professed it, and He developed some protocols for composting also. So he wrote 2 books also. So why I am showing it here? Because he said that health of the soil is related to health of the plant and finally human beings. Similarly, at the same time almost, Sir Robert McCarrison was also there in India, and he was the first person to say that fertilizer nitrogen reduces food quality. Now, in brief, just in 2 minutes, I want to share one thing, that why we need organic farming, because there are many issues related to conventional farming. One is decline in factor productivity, our land, labor, capital and management. These are the factors of production. And capital or money is used to buy inputs like seed, fertilizer, pesticide, herbicide, tractor, machinery. All these kind of equipments or things, they come from capital. So what happens, our investments are increasing in agriculture, but returns are not increasing in the same proportion. Therefore, it is said that decline in factor productivity, and finally decline factor productivity results in declining returns. Then unsafe food, I need not to overemphasize it. I think every one of you understand that our foods are laced with pesticide. Pesticide which have been banned 20 years before, 30 years before, they still come to our food. For example, DDT and BSC, these pesticides have been banned long ago, but still some people use them. They buy it from illegal market and they use it and they come to our food. So what will be the situation of people who are eating or consuming this pesticide laden food? And not just food, our air is also polluted. Lot of pollutants are there in our air, which is affecting our health. And take the case of water also. Water is not left untouched by the pollutants. Lot of pollutants are there in the water, maybe pesticide, maybe heavy metals, maybe toxic material, maybe from industry, industrial effluents, what not. There are so many chemical load on the groundwater or surface water. So if a person is consuming such a polluted water, such a polluted food, such a nutritionally poor food and so on, what will happen to his or her health? He will be visiting to hospitals every day because his health will deteriorate. Then again, he will be spending a lot of money. So why to go for these kind of options if we have some better food, some quality food by organic means? So reduced nutritional quality, I have already explained to you. Climate change, reduced soil fertility are the reasons, and it will lead to our reduced immunity. One study has very clearly demonstrated that out of 10, 7 Indians have poor muscles. Poor muscles means muscles are made up of protein and fat. So that means they are not getting good quality food. Now coming back to the topic, core pillars of organic farming, we need to understand what are the important pillars of organic farming or components of organic farming. There are 4 components. Every student should learn and remember these 4 components. One is organic standard, technology package, certification or regulatory mechanism, and market network. Organic standards are the actually do's and don'ts. What is allowed to be done in the organic farming, what is not allowed to be done in organic farming. Those kind of guidelines are written guidelines are listed in the document which is there. Indian organic standards are available on the website of APIDA. So APIDA is actually implementing agency for National Program on Organic Production, NPOP, National Program on Organic Production, which was started in year 2000, and that program has developed organic standards, and those standards are followed by the producer or farmers who are going for third party certification. So next step is technology package. Technology package means this is for the farmer, this is for the grower, for the producer, who is producing crops, who is producing meat, who is producing eggs, fish, or whatever agricultural commodity is there. So you need certain regulatory mechanism, technology package to produce it, or for value addition also. So in this case, for example, somebody is doing crop production, then he should know what kind of varieties are good, what should be the nutrient sources here, what should be the ideal combination of nutrient sources, what should be the combination of crop rotations, how diversification is possible. If there are weeds, how the weeds should be managed under organic system. because weed management is different in organic system from the conventional system. Similarly, insect pests and disease. If it is conventional farming, bring one pesticide, insecticide, and your problem is solved. But that is not the case in organic farming. You are not allowed to use pesticide. You need to follow certain other methods of biological control methods, some cultural practices, physical or mechanical measures, or crop rotations to manage insect, pest and disease. So this is actually technology package, and for most of the crops still the work is in progress. Information is not sufficiently available because organic farming is a new subject these days. So many research institutions and state agricultural university are involved in developing the technology package for organic farming. Even there is no sufficient breeding work because varieties of plant material that will suit to organic conditions may be different from what we have for the conventional farming. So third component of organic farming is certification. Certification means whether a farmer or a grower has followed the organic standards in producing the material, or during the processing, during the value addition, during the transport, or during the packaging, and even during the storage. We have some standard for storage also. So whether those standards have been followed or not, so somebody need to certify it. So the process is known as certification, and in the end the certificate is issued by the certification agency to the farmer or to the producer. So this is third major component or pillar of organic farming. And fourth and last is marketing network. So marketing is with respect to the inputs what are used in organic farming, and output is the produce. So marketing can be done for both items, whether it is input like biofertilizer, biopesticides or some other inputs. Similarly, output is your final product, whether it is fish, egg or crop. So how to market that? That is important. Now Government of India is helping farmer. They have opened one online portal for marketing of organic products. Similarly, for certification also Government of India is helping. One certification is third party certification, which is governed by APIDA. But the other kind of certification is PGS, Participatory Guarantee System, which is from the Government of India, and it is free of charge. There is no money involved in Participatory Guarantee System, and it is implemented by NCOF, National Center of Organic Farming, Ghaziabad. So any farmer interested, he can register on the portal of PGS and start organic production. Certification will be issued, and of course there is 3 years conversion period. So overall, I would like to discuss in detail about the technology package. So in technology package, there need to be some choice of crops and variety in the organic system. Choice depends upon the local conditions, whether a particular crop grows well or not, whether the marketing facilities are available for that crop or not. So all these aspects are given preference in choosing a particular crop or variety. So far varieties are concerned, farmers should choose the varieties which are normally insect, pest and disease resistant. This is one point. Second point is that their nutrient requirement should be lower, comparatively lower nutrient requirement. Such kind of variety will be more successful. So far crop rotations are concerned, one can go for intercropping, mixed cropping is important, and rotations are also important. Particularly inclusion of legume crops is very, very important, and sometimes here and there farmers can involve green manuring also, and because crop rotations are very, very important for nutrient management, for insect, pest and disease management, and even for the weed management. Thus proper crop rotation is the backbone of organic farming. If you want to succeed, diversification has to be there in the organic farming. Then sowing time is almost same for what we have for conventional farming, and so far nutrient management is concerned. Now we confine our discussion to nutrient management. So definitely, as I told you just now, that diversification of the crops is very, very important, and it narrows down the yield gap between conventional and organic system. If in organic system we follow crop rotations and diversify the rotations, the yield gap can be narrowed within 3-4 years or 5 years, and then the yield will become stable under organic system. So this is important. See this case, benefits and concerns of diversified agroecosystem. See, what are the benefits of crop rotations or diversifications? First is that improved soil organic matter, improved nutrient cycling, mitigating greenhouse gas emissions, reduce insect pest problems. So such kind of discussion has already taken place in some of my lectures, previous lecture. You can see these kind of things are there. And of course, there are certain concerns also, certain limitations also. For example, following crop rotations becomes sometimes more laborious. You need specialized people for work. Challenges in adoption increase uncertainty and high initial cost. But despite all these concerns or limitations, one should not stop from following the crop rotations. Now coming to nutrient management, certain guidelines are there from National Program on Organic Production. So what they suggest, what are the guidelines about the nutrient management in organic system? I am just going to discuss those guidelines. Number one, sufficient biodegradable material of microbial plant or animal origin to be produced on farms. So far possible, we should be self-sustaining. The farm should be able to produce sufficient microbial plant or animal origin products that can be used as a fertilizer or manure material. Prevent nutrient losses, this should be the priority. Pollutants, heavy metals are not allowed. They should not reach the soil. Non-synthetic materials or fertilizers or chemical fertilizers should never be used, and they are also never allowed. Desired soil pH levels should be maintained. This is the requirement. If we want good supply of nutrient, then soil pH should be maintained somewhere near neutrality, say 6.5 to 7.5 is the ideal pH. If pH is too acidic, then lime can be added. Lime is allowed in natural form. If you get lime, that can be added under organic system, no issue. And similarly, gypsum can also be used in its natural form under organic systems to reclaim the alkali soils or sodic soils. Similarly, certain biotechniques or biotic techniques can be used to bring down the soil pH, like growing some crops, green manuring, etc. Limitations are set for the total amount of biodegradable material brought onto the farm. The certification agency has discretionary power that it can fix certain limit, that this much percentage of nutrients you can bring from outside the farm and this much you need to produce right at the farm. Then manures containing human excreta are never allowed in organic farming. In any case, they are never allowed. Mineral fertilizers shall be applied in their natural composition. If at all required, certain mineral fertilizers are there like sylvanite, potassium chloride and many more, or rock phosphate. They can be used in their natural form. There is no restriction. However, they should not be synthetic. Mineral fertilizers like basic slag, rock phosphate should not have high heavy metal content. Of course, these natural minerals are allowed, but they should be tested for heavy metals. There should not be any load of heavy metals. Now see products for use in fertilizing or soil conditioning. What kind of products can be used in organic system? So matter produced on organic farm you can use, no issue. If you have demarcated organic farm and whatever matter, crop residues, farmyard manure you produce at organic farm is allowed, fully allowed. Number two, matter produced outside the organic farm unit, it is not fully allowed. The certification agency will put certain restrictions. However, with those restrictions, these can also be used. Number three, minerals in natural form are allowed. And number four, microbiological preparations are allowed. And thrust is given on biofertilizers. So somewhere in the list or in the standards you will find permitted word, prohibited word and restricted word, and fourth one is factory farming. Now I explain the meaning of all these four words. Permitted means allowed without any restriction. Prohibited means not allowed in any case, totally prohibited, totally stopped. Restricted means allowed under certain defined conditions or factors such as contamination, risk of nutritional imbalances and depletion of natural resources shall be taken into consideration. Factory farming refers to industrial management systems that are heavily reliant on veterinary and feed inputs not permitted in organic agriculture. Now let us see what are the matters that are allowed and produced at organic farm. Farmyard and poultry manure is allowed. Slurry, cow urine, crop residues and green manuring is perfect. Straw and other mulches allowed. Now matter produced outside the organic farm unit. So some are permitted, some are prohibited and some are restricted. So permitted items are sawdust, wood shavings. Prohibited is human excreta, and restricted items are blood meal, meat meal, bone meal and feather meal without preservatives. Means these are manures from the animals. They are restricted under organic farming, and compost made from any carbon based residues, animal excrement including poultry. Farmyard manure, slurry, cow urine, factory farming sources not permitted. Fish and fish product without preservative can be used. Guano can be used. Byproducts from the food and textile industries are used. Guano, I think you understand, these are the manures from the birds. Birds put their excreta and it is collected, that is guano. Seaweed and seaweed products obtained by physical processes are allowed. Sewage sludge and urban compost extra, but proper treatment should be there. Vermicast are the excreta of the earthworms, it is allowed. Animal charcoal, compost, spent mushroom, compost from organic household, compost from plant residues means restricted use. Byproduct from oil palm, coconut and cocoa, palm oil mill effluent, cocoa peat and empty cocoa pods. Now see minerals, some minerals are also available, and the permitted list of mineral includes calcified seaweeds, calcium chloride, calcium carbonate of natural origin like chalk, limestone, gypsum and phosphate chalk, sodium chloride, magnesium sulfate, gypsum, clay, etc. are allowed. And restricted mineral items include basic slag, calcareous and magnesium rocks, mineral potassium like sulfate of potash, kainite, natural phosphate like rock phosphate. Condition is that there should not be enough heavy metals in natural minerals. Trace elements like boron, iron, manganese, molybdenum, zinc from the natural ores of minerals, wood ash from untreated wood, potassium sulfate from natural form and sulfur. So these are restricted items. Now there is no issue with microbial preparations at all. Permitted are bacterial preparations like biofertilizers, biodynamic preparations and plant preparation and botanical extracts and peat etc. are allowed. Options to supply nutrients through organic sources. Suppose some farmers are doing organic farming. So how to manage the nutrients? What are the options available for farmers under local conditions? So what happens? Multiple sources needed actually. No one source can meet out the whole requirement of crops and cropping systems. So, but also it will depend also upon the prices of the substance or prices of the organic matter or manure. All organic inputs do not uniformly supply the nutrients. This is issue because sometimes you need quick decomposing material that can supply nutrients faster. The aim is to optimize the use of on-farm resources and minimize the losses. So it is just not application of resources, the losses should be minimized. Now see, there are number of organic materials that can be source of nutrients under organic systems. The list includes some on-farm sources that are produced right on the farm, off-farm sources that are brought from outside the farm. So this list may be very short, some more can be added to this list. For example, on-farm resources include crop rotations. I always say that crop rotations, of course, they are rotations of the crop, but in my view, they also provide you nutrients and they improve the physical, chemical and biological properties of the soil. So therefore, I keep them in the list of on-farm resources of nutrients. Farmyard manure, green manure, crop residues, poultry manure, sheep and goat manure, biogas slurry and sludge, vermicompost, etc. Similarly, off-farm sources, coir pith, pressed mud, oil cakes, biocompost, sewage and municipal waste, minerals, blood meal, fish meal, bone meal, biofertilizers, traditional preparation, fly ash, but some of them have restricted use. Now see, just I am citing one example of oil cakes. Oil cakes are rich in nitrogen. They also contain some phosphorus and potassium. So oil cake can be safely used in organic farming. Like they contain 4.9 to 5% nitrogen on an average and 1.6 to 1.8% P2O5 and 1.4 to 1.5% potassium. So there is no issue and they are quick acting also. They release nutrient quickly. So they can be combined with other organic manures. They can be split applied. They can be broadcast also and they can be basal applied. And see also, we also did some experiment on organic farming for nutrient management and some initial results are available with us. So just I want to share some results like 2 cropping systems were compared. One was rice wheat and other was rice wheat mung bean system. We intensely took mung bean because we consider it as a nutrient supplement or it will supply the nutrients. So we also had some nutrient management treatments like control, farmyard manure at 60 kg nitrogen per hectare, farmyard manure plus crop residues at 2.5 tons per hectare and vermicompost plus crop residues, and vermicompost was used equivalent to 60 kg nitrogen, and farmyard manure plus crop residue 2.5 ton per hectare plus biofertilizer for rice was azotobacter and PSB, for wheat azotobacter and PSB, but for rice we also use some blue-green algae also, and in case of mung bean we used rhizobium. These were the biofertilizers and experiment was conducted in strip plot design, 2 strips of nutrient management and cropping systems. And you can see results are quite interesting. Rice can give you 4.1 tons per hectare yield when it is grown in rice wheat system, but this yield increased to 4.68 when mung bean was included in the system. The message is very simple. Out of 10 years, if we take the average, about 0.5 tons of rice yield was increased due to inclusion of mung bean in the rotation. So simple. Similarly, for the wheat yield increased from 3.7 tons to 4.05. In this case also 0.5 to 0.6 ton improvement in yield of wheat due to inclusion of mung bean in the rotation. That means mung bean improved the properties of the soil and it also supplied some nutrient for rice and wheat both. It also had perhaps the residual effect for wheat. And the best nutrient management practices was found out to be application of your farmyard manure equivalent to 60 kg nitrogen and your crop residues 2.5 tons per hectare, rice residue in wheat residue in next crop and so on. And this was most remunerative treatment also. So you can see some economics of the treatments. See the first picture in which rice wheat is giving you 138 lakhs rupees 138 lakhs per hectare per year, but this rice wheat mung bean system gives you about 1,62,000 rupees per hectare per year. So economics is in favor of rice wheat mung bean system. And not just economics, among the nutrient management practices, you see farmyard manure, crop residue plus biofertilizer gave the maximum economic return. So in this case for basmati rice wheat system, we can say that farmyard manure equivalent to 60 kg can be used, crop residue can be used and biofertilizer can be used in addition to adopting the legume in the rice wheat rotation. And lot of studies have been made across the country for nutrient management practices under organic system for different kind of crops and different kind of soils. So I am just giving few representative studies and you can see them. This study was made by Venu Gopalan in 2010 on cotton crop mainly, and there were some other crops also, sorghum, mung bean, soybean, pigeon pea, etc. And the main message of this work is that in organic systems you can get almost the same yield as in non-organic system. This is one. Second system is that inclusion of legume as intercrop is quite useful in enhancing the total productivity of the system. And not only this, as usual, most of you by now understand that legume always improve the soil health. See this study published in Indian Journal of Horticulture in 2012 by Sri Devi Shankar et al. So you can see they have used different nutrient sources like vermicompost, farmyard manure, poultry manure, cow dung and control. Control was the fertilizer treatment. So in this case they compared the different organic manures with fertilizers and they have tested their effect on the quality of the food item like tomato. It was the tomato in their case and they studied crude fiber, vitamin C and total carotenoids in the tomato. And see this data, the first column on Kharif season even, crude fiber. Crude fiber was significantly more in when they use farmyard manure compared to vermicompost or poultry manure. Similarly, see the vitamin C content in Kharif. Vitamin C content in Kharif season, it was highest in vermicompost. When you use vermicompost, then it was highest value. And so also there are some differences in nutritional quality due to use of different manures. And see this case of performance of basmati rice through organic sources of nutrients. This study is from Punjab, Ludhiana, and you can see the different sources were used like untreated control, recommended level of nitrogen at 40 kg per hectare for basmati rice, green leaf manuring 10 tons per hectare, vermicompost 2.5 ton per hectare, green leaf manuring at another rate 5 tons per hectare, vermicompost 2.5 and some other nutrient sources. And they compared and they found in many cases, see the last row in the attributes like panicle per meter square, grains per, in the same column you see grain yield. So grain yield under control, untreated control is just 2.33. If you apply recommended dose of nitrogen, it becomes 2.84. But if you apply green leaf manuring, then it is 3.41. It is 3.41 means it is much higher than chemical fertilizer. Then again 3.1, almost all the organic treatment produce more yield over the fertilizer treatment. It suggests that higher yields can be produced, particularly in case of basmati rice, using different organic sources. And sources, particularly green leaf manure is important, vermicompost is also important. Of course, the economic analysis is not available for this study here. And see another study done by Munda in 2010 on groundnut productivity quintals per hectare affected by source of nutrient supply. So different sources, they have taken 8, 10, 20, 12 different sources of nutrients, control, FIM, 10 tons per hectare, FIM plus rock phosphate plus neem cake, vermicompost at 5 ton plus rock phosphate and variety of combination of some other materials. So you can see some significant differences were observed, and on many of the treatment, this organic nutrient management treatment produce higher yield, much higher yield than the control. So it is again proving that organic yields can be maintained at a high level. Now dear friends, now it is turn of the crop rotations, because many times I have spoken about crop rotations, and I also said that I put them under the source of nutrients, crop rotations. So crop rotation for nutrient management in organic farming, I must convince you how crop rotations can be used as a source of nutrients. So crop rotation is a planned sequence of growing different crops in the same field. The field is same, but you change the crop every year in the same field. That is known as crop rotation. Rotations are the opposite of continuous cropping. Continuous cropping is your kind of monoculture. Suppose I am taking rice every year. So this is monoculture. But if I take rice, wheat, mung bean, it becomes multiculture because we are growing different kind of crops. So rotations are the opposite of continuous cropping, which is growing the same crop in the same field year after year. Ideally, these crops are not of the same family. It is true, you need to diversify the family, diversify the species also. Now question comes, as a student, somebody will ask you, why to rotate the crop? Why there is need to have crop rotations? There are certain reasons, certain background to follow the crop rotations. For example, the purpose is to improve or maintain good physical, chemical and biological condition of the soil. It proves that rotations will help you to improve the physical, chemical and biological properties of the soil. To reduce the average rate of erosion from a soil, that means rotations can reduce the soil erosion. Now you would surprise how you can control the soil erosion by rotation. I think this is your homework. You identify the answer or reason yourself. Then improving the soil structure. How rotations can improve the soil structure? Mainly by their rooting action. Their roots go very deep, because in rotation you need to take deep rooted and shallow rooted crops alternatively. Hence it acts as a biotillage kind of thing. Therefore improvement in soil structure is there. When legume is used in the rotation, it may eliminate the need for nitrogen fertilizer. So legume can directly supply part of the nitrogen required by the succeeding crop. Can be an important part of integrated pest management. Not only nutrient management, but rotations also help in the management of insect pests and diseases. So they have multiple benefits. Can also decrease the need for inorganic supplements. Now, what is the value of the crop rotation? Value with respect to plant nutrition. They play a direct role in plant nutrition, insect control, disease prevention and water quality improvement, particularly groundwater. Because if you are growing cereal kind of things where nutrient requirements are quite high, particularly for nitrogen, and then assuming just 30% recovery or 40% recovery, so most of the fertilizer nutrients or nutrients coming from other sources will leach down. So there will not be improvement in groundwater quality, rather it will get deteriorated. So therefore, but if we adopt rotation, means if we include crops, legume crops, oilseed crop and other kind of forage plants and so on, then that way we can improve the water quality. Now let us see, there are certain advantages of crop rotations. Crop rotation improves soil structural stability, increases crop water use efficiency. These rotation improve crop water use efficiency. If I ask you a question, what will be one line answer? The answer will be because crop rotation improve the water holding capacity of soil. Therefore, they increase the water use efficiency. There are losses of the water are actually reduced because crop rotations also improve organic matter in soil. So this improved level of organic matter will conserve or will store more water. Therefore, water use efficiency will be improved. So you need to look into the reasoning of these points. So increases soil organic matter levels. It improves nutrient use efficiency also. Just now I said that water use efficiency is improved, means water storage is improved. So naturally, if you have sufficient moisture, it will help the uptake, movement and transport of nutrients in the plant system as well in soil. So it is going to increase the nutrient use efficiency, water use efficiency and provides better weed control. These crop rotations by allelopathic means, by smoothing effect, cover crops and so on, and disrupt insect pest and disease cycles. Let us see the value of crop rotation in relation to plant nutrition. So actually each crop uses different types and amounts of mineral from the soil. For example, cereal crops, if we take cereal, so every time they will remove more of nitrogen, more of potassium in comparison to phosphorus. But if we take legume crop, so legume crop will prefer more of phosphorus. Application of phosphorus will be suggested. Requirement for phosphorus will be more. If we take just one kind of crop every time, just legume, then our soil will become deficient in phosphorus. Similarly, if we take just rice or rice, wheat, same kind of crop, then it will be exhausted of nitrogen and potassium. But if we take them in rotation, then it is the ideal combination, because one crop can use more of a particular nutrient, other crop will use other nutrients. So that kind of combination of rotation is helpful in plant nutrition actually, because different crops also replenish different minerals. Similarly, sometimes they return back their residues, their roots are there. Sometimes certain crops, the leaf falling may be there. So fallen leaves and addition of organic matter, residues, etc. can sometimes add minerals also. A different crop will sometimes return missing minerals to the soil as the plant dies and composts. So what happened, the different soil layers have different levels of nutrients. In general, on an average, as we go deeper into the soil, the nutrient content in general declines, particularly for carbon, organic matter or nitrogen. Their content declines. However, if we take crops of different rooting depth, so they can extract nutrients from many soil layers, and many times the nutrients which are lying below the rooting zone of normal crops, those kind of minerals can be brought back into the body parts of the deep rooted crop. And then these deep rooted crop, if their residues are returned back, if their leaves fall on the ground, then that way they can bring some missing minerals to the upper layer of the soil, which were lying unused or idle on the lower soil depth. Therefore, rotating the crops of deep rooted with shallow rooted is a good strategy for plant nutrition also. Now, for soil structure also, because rotations improve soil structure. So, rotation preserves and improves soil structure. Crops have different root structures and grow to various depth. By rotating, the soil is not submitted to just shallow depth crops, but deep diggers that will slowly deepen the soil. So, they will improve the structure. The effectiveness of rotation at boosting soil fertility depends on the legume, how long it is there, whether part of it is harvested before it is plowed, etc. The contribution of legumes will definitely govern by the length of the period, how long they are being grown in the system. If it is once in 5 years, 10 years, then contribution may be meager. But if they are rotated every year, if we include one legume every year, then contribution would be quite handsome. So, it depends upon the time, how long you are growing legumes in the rotation. Now, how to rotate the crops? What are the fundamental principles of rotating the crop? So, some important ones are listed here. However, many students know what are the fundamental principles of crop rotation. So, first thing is that crops should be rotated on at least a 3 to 4 year cycle. 3 to 4 year cycle, longer the rotation, better is the option. So, for example, a crop of maize planted this year is not planted in the same field for the next 2 to 3 years or 4 years. That is your rotation. Means same crop should not come every year in the same field. You need to change the field. Suppose in Kharif season, if I have grown rice in this field, next year I should try maize, I should try pigeon pea, or maybe any other suitable crop can be taken. Ideally, altogether different crops should be used each year, as insects and disease that affect one crop will also likely affect similar crops. Cabbage and broccoli are of the same family and should not follow each other. This is simple fundamental principle of rotation, that crops of the same family should not be grown sequentially, because insect pests and disease of one crop can go to the other. So, better to take the crops in succession, in rotation, belonging to different plant families. So, that is the ideal situation. Similarly, there are certain other rules, like high nutrient requiring crops should be followed by low nutrient requiring crops. Deep rooted crops should be followed by shallow rooted crop. High water requiring crops should be followed by low water requiring crops. And similarly, for other inputs also, some principles are there that needs to be followed. So, crops are changed year by year in a plant sequence. One can make these sequences in advance and they should be followed according to the plan. Now, see the planning considerations. Legumes are generally a beneficial preceding crop. So, we start rotation from the legume, because whatever nitrogen or whatever contribution of nutrients will be there from this can be accommodated for the next crop. So, when legumes are used in a crop rotation, the nitrogen formed by fixation should be taken into account when determining the nutrients needed for the future crop. Take the case of rice. Many times we take green manuring crop before the rice. So, normally it is recommended under Delhi, Punjab, Haryana conditions that you apply 60 kilogram less nitrogen to the next or succeeding crop of rice. So, in the recommendation, reduce this quantity of nitrogen, because this is expected to be contributed by the legume green manure. So, such kind of recommendation should be there, so that kind of INM is there. So, now you will realize that these rotations are supplying nutrients to the crops. Soil fertility levels should be regularly monitored and fertility maintained within the acceptable range for all crops in the rotation. This is must. Testing of the soil at least once in 3 years should be done, and according to that the nutrient supplement should be applied. Utilize crop residues more effectively. Crop residues are really a big thing, are kind of asset that should be recycled properly. Whether it is conventional system or organic system, crop residues have their very high values. They should not be burned, they should be recycled, composted or used in the soil or incorporated. Now let us see the role of legumes in crop rotations. Why legumes are considered as very good crop in the rotations? So number one is that addition of nitrogen in soil for the current as well as the succeeding crops. So there is no doubt that these legumes provide nitrogen, and particularly these cowpea, green gram, black gram and many other legumes which are grown under field conditions, they contribute nitrogen handsomely. On an average, if we take about 60 to 80 kilogram, nitrogen can be fixed by these legumes in 2 to 3 months period. And besides nitrogen, they have some other advantages like increase in P and K and micronutrient concentration and uptake of the crop succeeding legumes. Legumes feed the deeper layer of the soil and part of the nutrients absorbed are left in the root biomass. So this is very interesting contribution of the legume crops, and it is also there if you take green manuring crops as legume crop in the rotation. Then what it does, it decomposes in the soil, and upon the decomposition several acids or organic acids are produced. These organic acids can solubilize certain elements which are fixed. For example, phosphorus availability can be increased by the green manuring crop, and in some studies it was found to increase the native zinc availability also increased because of green manuring. So these legumes have very important role in soil fertility management, and not just soil fertility, they have other roles like management of insect pests and diseases. So lessening of disease and pest problems. Francis and Clegg stated that the greater the difference between crops in rotation in sequence, the better the control of pests. Longer the duration of the crops in the rotation, better is the control of insect pests and disease. In organic farming, we do not use pesticide like your chemical pesticide, insecticide, fungicide or weedicides. So therefore, what option is left? It is better to adopt crop rotations in organic farming, so that besides nutrient management, we can also manage the insect pest and disease. So therefore, the roles of crop rotations are quite eminent. Better control of weeds by following the rotations. For example, in Nebraska, rotating corn and grain sorghum with broadleaf crops is an effective method for controlling shattercane. Now, there are certain constraints of nutrient management in organic systems. I have shown you that there are several options for nutrient management in organic system, but at the same time there are constraints. So topmost constraint is limitation of organic manure in large amount, because organic manures are required to supplement nutrients in the organic farming, and we also like to have the cheaper source of organic manure. For example, if we take 1 kilogram nitrogen from farmyard manure, it may cost somewhere around rupees 200 to 250, cost of 1 kg nitrogen from farmyard manure. Similarly, cost of 1 kg nitrogen from urea is roughly 11 or 12 rupees. See the difference. So in this case, it becomes very difficult to buy organic manures for the farmer, because they are also expensive, and rate of application is also very high in case of organic manures, like say it may be 15 to 20 tons per hectare under organic system. So this is really a huge ask for a farmer who is marginal. So limitation of organic manures, particularly in some areas of the country where mechanization has happened, the animals, less number of animals are kept on the farm in a particular household. Therefore, less production of dung or less production of farmyard manure. Thereby, availability of the manure is also low. Therefore, such manures will be expensive. And also, if you have are using organic manures which are used in bulk, So transport cost is also considered. If you are buying it from a 30-kilometer place or 20-kilometer place and you need to transport it from longer distances, then cost of application will increase. So that is another issue in organic farming. Difficulties in handling also, because the size is very bulky. So the lot of laborers are employed in this loading, uploading, and so much of job, and then applying to the field, and then spreading in the field, then mixing in the field. So many operations are required for handling of organic manures. Slow release of nutrients, particularly in winter time. So in summer or in Kharif season, there is no issue, particularly in winter in northern India. The decomposition or release of nutrients is very slow. That is why productivity of wheat, mustard, and many winter season crops is generally low in North Indian conditions under organic system. However, in many cases, yields are almost equal to the conventional if the crops are grown in Kharif or summer season, for the simple reason that in North India, winter months temperatures are low and release of nutrients is comparatively less or slow. So therefore, yield of wheat is low in North Indian condition under organic system. This is my own experience and I can say with surety. And farmyard manure, losses of nutrients via collection storage. There are number of losses that can happen with the farmyard manures, starting from cattle shed, handling, transport, and then during the production of compost or farmyard manure, storage. There are several losses, leaching of nutrients, volatilization of ammonia. Number of losses can happen from farmyard manure. So one need to, this is also a constraint. So many times what manure you are using may not be having sufficient nitrogen or other nutrients. Therefore, quality testing of manure is also necessary when you use such substandard manures. Difficulties in adoption of diversified rotation. It is easy to say that follow the rotation, adopt rotation, but of course there are many difficulties. If you follow rotation, that means you need to take number of crops, different kinds of crops, and if markets are not available for those crops, how can a farmer drive the benefits or profits? So it is a limitation, and not just market. Many times you need specialized people, specialized training. If you are changing the crops, then farmer needs to take training in different crops. He need to know agronomy of different crops. So again, difficulty in harvesting also. He need to buy different kind of machinery. The machine used for harvesting of wheat may not be applicable for maize. So he need to buy variety of machinery if the systems are diversified. So problem of including legumes in rotation. Many times farmers see that legumes are not useful, and in some areas of the country, the area under legume crops has declined mainly because of problem of certain wild animals, and so many issues are there with the legumes. Matching the nutrient requirement with the demand is another issue, because most of the cases the release pattern of nutrient is not known, and it is also affected by climate factor, the weathering or decomposition of organic matter, release of nutrient. So it is very difficult to match the nutrient requirement with the nutrient supply from the organic sources. Quantity of nutrient sources to be used is really difficult to calculate for a farmer. Nutrient combinations, we need to find out the ideal combinations of nutrients. Immature manures, many times farmers don't wait for the proper maturity composting of the manures. Biofertilizers are not always consistent with their response or performance. Contributions of legume and green manures not considered. Cost of vermicompost many times very expensive, and non-scientific thinking is also there. So finally, I can conclude that health of the soil linked to the plants, animals, and human health. On and off farm nutrient sources, number of sources are available. Use depends on their availability and economics. Crop rotations, green manuring, intercropping, crop residues, organic manures, and biofertilizers need to be optimized depending upon their availability under local conditions. Inclusion of mung bean, other legumes in cropping system is always profitable. Farmyard manure plus crop residues plus biofertilizer gave maximum profits and sustained soil fertility and rice wheat system. Dear students, I hope that you were able to understand and about the nutrient management in organic systems, as I discussed with the conventional system also. At some other time I will discuss nutrient management in cropping system, conventional cropping system. Have a nice time. Thank you very much.